Welcome to the final day of the Tour of Catalunya. The inflatables might be a little bit public holiday happy, let's put it that way, but this is going to be our finish line today. And as you can see, there is a little bit of a ramp down to the finish line, so a dramatic end to the day most certainly. 8 laps indeed of a short 6.5 kilometre circuit around Barcelona. They've looped out just a little bit. We've had an intermediate sprint. Dan Martin has level pegged himself with Richie Porte, courtesy of the second that he picked up at it. And so as a result, Dan Martin has got a chance at the virtual podium, so it may well come on count back on the final day. This is what we're dealing with, and as you can see, it looks pretty much like a shark's tooth profile. In fact, it looks very much like that at the end. And in fact, the Category 3 climb at the last is not that easy, so real one for the punchers as opposed to the sprinters. So as we gaze up at the Sagrada Familia, and other great edify. In fact, that's not the Sagrada Familia, but I'm sure we'll see it. 136.4 kilometres, the total distance today. Not too easy. And the weather, well, there's a light breeze, let's put it that way. 15 Celsius, 14 kilometres per hour. And as you can see, nothing too much to trouble and wind-wise here because of the good cover, but that little ski ramp entry to the line is going to be fun. So starting and finishing in Barcelona. Everyone had a relaxed night. They were treated to kind of a gentle party in celebration just ahead of the final day of this great race, which has brought so many big names here. Hessink, what chance for him? Probably not too much today. We shall see. Plenty of teams with options, however, Tony Gibb, and when you start looking through the list of potential winners, it's quite a long one, to be honest.
It is quite a long one indeed. Good morning, Carlton. Good morning, everybody at home, and thank you for joining us on Easter Sunday. Happy Easter to you all.
Afternoon, and, actually, now the clocks have gone ahead.
It is, yeah, it is. My mistake. And after you having a go at my watch yesterday, I've decided to wear a different one today. But yeah, the list of riders that could do something today is quite long. But I do think it's going to come down to a battle for the GC contenders. We've seen Dan Martin pick up a second already in the first sprint of the morning, and you'll see in a moment with these pictures that Etixx-QuickStep did really drill the race out of the start, because the first sprint was after only 9 kilometres. Yeah, see here straight away, they're on the front of the bunch.
Plenty of them motivated to go well, Dan Martin amongst them, of course. So he had his fun, he had his lead in, but unfortunately he was denied the maximum 3 seconds, which would have put him well and truly on the podium. Right now he shares third place with Richie Porte. So Quintana, he leads this race ahead of Alberto Contador, and after Martin's exploits in the first intermediate sprint of the day, he now joins Richie Porte on the third step on 17 seconds deficit. So we're looking at the breakaway right now, and it's a pretty handy bunch, got to tell you. Team Lotto-Jumbo, the only team with 2 members, so they're top and tailing, as you'd expect. This is Roglic, the Slovenian, just heading back. Koen Bouwman is also here. Roglic is the best placed of the breakaway riders, by the way, at 17 minutes deficit. 3-minute gap at the moment, and CCC, Sprandi, Polkovici haven't got anyone in the break, and as a result, Tejay got off the bike today. Yes, so they look more short-handed than that, actually. I wonder if they've lost another one along the way. This is the sort of day where David Rebellin would have revelled in. It's his kind of terrain. I don't know where that came from, but I like it. I'll make use that again. Back to the breakaway while we look at those who are just plying their trade today. It's going to be a bit like this until we get to the circuit, essentially, at the end. We'll be hitting that circuit. It's 8 laps, don't forget, of 6.6. So if you've done the maths, you'll know it's 53.8 kilometres. So they've got a little while to go, and they're on a sort of a flat open plain at the moment, having already dealt with the second of the intermediate sprints. So it's all gone a little bit quiet, to be honest, and I think there'll be this holding pattern. It's about 2 minutes the gap at the moment. We've got the eternal problem with this particular race of not being given time gaps too often. It's been holding about 2 minutes. That seems to suit just about everyone until we get to that series of climbs which make up that circuit. 8 of them, in fact, same climb every time. Just before we head back to the breakaway, in fact, here we are right now, Tony, it's worth dwelling on that final climb. It's no easy piece of cake, despite the fact it is a Category 3, is it?
Well, it is a Category 3, and it's not just that climb, it's the whole of the finishing circuit, because at about 6.5 kilometres, a K&a-half of it is the first climb, then there's a very steep, short, sharp descent, then we've got another 500 metre little climb, and then the rest of it is a descent until back round to the start of the climb again. So there's no place to ease off and get any rest. It's going to be hell for leather up the climb, people chasing on to get back on down the descent, then the next little climb, and then another chase on again. So 8 laps of that, we are certainly going to see the fireworks, and given how the overall classification is set up with the time bonuses at the end as well, we could see this race turned on its head still yet.
I think so. If you want to know, put it in your head what it's like, if you draw sort of a spiky M, and the second part of the M is a little bit less than the first part, you'll get the course. So they go up, they come down, up and down again, and then do it all once more. Tony's going to take a picture of the map and blast it up to you on Twitter. Don't forget you can join us on @CarltonKirby, or is it A Gibby
76?
76. They were the punk years, I think.
My IQ.
What deficit? 69 Ks to go then. Not the most spirited chase down, as you can see, and that's because the gap is kind of manageable at the moment, especially with this kind of distance. So while CCC have a go, let's just tell you briefly who's in the break. It's Arndt from Giant, it's King from Cannondale, it's Mas from Kaya Roral, Lamatink from Rompot, 2 from LottoNL-Jumbo, which is Baumann and Roglic. We have Tsatevich of Katusha, Arme of Soudal, Moric from Lamprey, who won yesterday's stage with Kimulai, Corte from Francis de Jure, Switzu from Dimension Data, and Dron from Wanty. Welcome back. 3 minutes is the gap right now for our breakaway. Didn't count them actually. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. It's a diamond dozen. How many apostles were there? It is Easter after all. I guess it's worth dwelling on. And thank you very much to Peter Kogoy, who has wished us Felice Pasqua, which is Happy Easter in local speak. You can see there's some clouds here, so typical bank holiday. It's raining in the hills. Hopefully it won't rain here, and indeed on the hill that we're going to deal with. We're nearly on the circuit, aren't we?
We're nearly on the circuit. Got about 8k to go, I think. And a tweet sent of the profile of the whole stage and the climb. So, sorry, the finish circuit with that climb on it. So you'll see just how difficult it is. There's hardly any flat at all on that last finish circuit. So
you're spoiling us, Ambassador.
Circuit de Montjuïc. And that's the best Spanish pronunciation you're getting. So this group here, just on this little bridge climb on the way to the circuit, and it's almost status quo at the moment, isn't it? Because the bunch will keep them at about 2.5 minutes, and that will come down very quickly when we hit that finish circuit.
Barcelona is an amazing place with Las Ramblas, etc., where you can go for your evening stroll and watch out for trams. Yes, a certain Mr. Gaudi, who was architecture in this part of the world, is absolutely spectacular. Some say it looks like it's made out of bubble gum, and in fact Gaudi gave us Gordy, I think. Maybe he didn't, but yes. It was frowned upon, his style of architecture, but these days, of course, it's cherished. And they're finally going to finish his cathedral. They're in the process of doing so. He had a great idea and thought, you know what, I'm going to build a cathedral. And they said, how are you going to do that then? He said, I'm just going to start. Never actually managed to finish it, but it is being finished on his behalf. When you know he died in the 1920s, can't quite remember when, 26 I think. It's been a long time coming, the finishing of it, but it is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and when you see it, it is really quite spectacular. We're bound to get pictures of it. This particular area, the architect was Lego. It's not as pretty as some places, but I'm sure they're homely enough. There we are. So yes, it's charge down time. A question of just not doing anything silly for the GC men, I think.
Well, at the moment I think so, yeah, but don't forget we've got Nairo Quintana leading by 7 seconds from Alberto Contador. Richie Porte and Dan Martin equal third place at the moment on 17 seconds. And then Tejay van Garderen not out of it on 27 and Romain Bardet on 31. So it's all still to play for. There's time bonuses at the end as well, and with this little climb it could cause mischief. The only saving grace is that the finish is actually at the bottom of the descent of the smaller climb, shall we say. So you could open a gap on the climb and then it can be brought back together. So that's the saving grace. The descent, we've got a 2k descent into the finish from 100 metres down to just under 25 metres. So the finish isn't at the top of the climb because that could cause some much bigger time gaps.
Here's Bodo, Boris Dron. He was in the break on the opening 2 days when Buani won, so he's a sucker for punishment on a fast day. He does roll with the punches, and they've had some success. Of course, Gaetian Byler finished third a couple of days ago into Vals, and Wanty have been in the break just about every single day. So they've done it for the jersey, and now maybe they're going to do it for themselves. Let's wait and see. You also saw that Kai Rural here. Louis Mas is in the house. There he is in green. The man most notable of Kai Rural is Hugh Carthy, who leads the Young Riders competition. And more than that, he's actually in the top 10 overall. He's just sits ahead of Rigoberto Urán at 9th in the overall standing. So the young man from just north of Preston is doing a fantastic job. This is the Puente Nelson Mandela. Nelson's everywhere, isn't he, bless him? No longer with us, of course, but his name lives on in bridges such as this. I'm not quite sure what it represents that pertains to Nelson, but then again, some high-rise tower blocks as well also carry his name. 62 kilometres remaining then, and as you can see, Movistar are as safe as they want to be. They're not having to take on the chasing duties, but they're at the pointy end where, frankly, it's the best place to be, especially when you've got some street furniture to do on the approaches in the outlying areas, the suburban areas of Barcelona itself. It's not the prettiest part of town, as you can see, but it is the capital of Catalunya. As a result, it has an industrial heart, which we're coming through right now. But yes, it will get prettier, believe me. It'll also get more difficult today when we start climbing. As you were saying, Tony, you've got to be on your mettle, really. The climb itself, 3.9 kilometres, 4.7, but maxing at 8%, and then you've got that secondary non-categorised climb, which brings you all the way back down round to the finish line. Yeah, exactly, and there are King of the Mountain points on the top of that climb every time over. Only 3, 2, and 1 point, and I think the points are the King of the Mountains is pretty much done and dusted now. Thomas de Gent has got that one in the bag. I think mathematically he can't be beaten, but it's going to cause some fireworks this last circuit because it's not just the stage win the riders are going to be going for here, because the overall is still up for grabs. We've got CCC Sprandi Polkowicki on the front here chasing it down, because so far they have got absolutely nothing out of this race. They can't do anything overall because their highest place rider is 50th on GC in 16 minutes and 3 seconds down, so there's no chance of him doing anything. So they're bringing this break back because, one, they haven't got anybody in it, and two, they want to get something out of today's stage. You've got to be in it to win it. Tsatevich is here thinking Joaquim Rodriguez today. He's been very quiet, he's not been overly happy, he's not been well. But it would have been a sort of a punchy rock and roll kind of stage to suit him. The likes of Gilbert, there's plenty of others as well. Great names, including Dan, that could go for it. Welcome back. There is a gap. It's a modest one, Tony. It is a modest one. We've just got the latest time check at 3 minutes and 5 seconds with just under 60 kilometres to go. That 3 minutes and 5 seconds will disappear very quickly indeed when we get onto this finish circuit. Expect a lot of riders to abandon as well and get off on the finishing circuit. There's not a lot for the majority of the riders to get out of today's stage, and believe it or not, there are the logistics of people getting home from the race or moving on to their next race. And I know I've mentioned him a lot, and I'll continue to mention him because he helps us out with a lot of information when we're covering races. Gary Beckett, good friend of mine who works for the Garmin team, he's actually sent me, Carlton,
the team's breakdown of the last day, and the team plan and everything from when they had dinner, and all of the riders and everybody else and where they're going and the logistics.
Decent pace today, as you can see. Well, it's picking up right now because everyone wants to first look at the crossing of the finish line. We're into Barcelona. Doesn't look too pretty at this point, but not that far from the coast. You can see one of the shipping canals as well that bring goods to and from. 58 Ks remaining, so we've only got, well, let's have a double check, shall we? Will be the breakaway, which got a modest advantage for the time being. A couple of minutes. There's not been more than that throughout the day. They're going to hit it with 53.8 kilometres to go. So we're nearly there. About 4 Ks before we're on our final circuit. There's Fabio Aru. He's been extremely quiet during this race. He missed the Paris-Nice and had a decent Algarve, and he's been absolutely anonymous within this one. There has been a few bugs going around. Flu, tummy bugs, that kind of thing. I think it's just the nature of this time of year, to be honest. Hot and cold, hot and cold. You go out to the Middle East, then you come back to Northern Europe, it's rainy. You're in an aircraft, people are coughing and sneezing all over the place, and it spreads like wildfire. There's a lot of isolation actually within a team when somebody does get sick, isn't it, Tony? They get on a diet of basically cream crackers because they're the only thing they can flick under their bedroom door.
Well, there is a lot of sickness, and Joe Dombrowski's sick today. He has started. I don't know if he's climbed off yet, but there's a lot of other riders who have climbed off, notably Bernie Eisel. We don't know yet if that's through sickness or just through end-of-day boredom. But
honestly, after he harangued the motorcycle yesterday for aiding the chase, I think he's just having a huff. Here's Alberto from the top of the day. Alberto, this is the last stage of Catalunya, decisive stage. How do you feel? It's a very important day, he says, with a very specific parcours for the stage. It's really complicated to make differences on this kind of terrain. But all is possible until the finish line, and the first 5 riders of the GC are less than 30 seconds apart. Dan Martin could be an ally for you, he says. Well, he could be an ally, like he could be a big opponent, but in this type of race, we don't think about keeping our positions, but just battling for victory, he says. So yeah, let's see. Let's see indeed. Well, you could get less ancient than this approach. What have we got? 4-lane highway plus a service road, which is being used by, oh my goodness, that fast motorcycle. I don't even think he's part of the race. Came through there at what looked to be about 100 kilometers an hour, just as the peloton, that was on a slip road, just as the peloton were well, not ambling but plying their trade. And there indeed is the ultimate tradesman, you might say, Nairo Quintana. He's come over from Colombia out of what's been a solid period of training throughout the winter, and apparently it's always the same, isn't it? He winds himself up, he lets himself go, and it just seems that he's always on it right from the very start of the season.
You never really see him having that much of a bad day.
No.
He's always there or thereabouts.
There's no warm-up.
It seems to be very workmanlike, tick the boxes and come and get the job done. I mean, it's only March, it's almost April, it's still very early in the year, but still showing some good signs of form, isn't he?
You know, there's artistry and there's painting by numbers, and business-like, I think you can probably say about Nairo Quintana, and then flashes of absolute genius. Do you remember him chasing down Froome in the Tour de France, where he just came so close? I got very emotional about the whole thing. But yeah, I very much like Nairo Quintana, and yeah, he has a business-like start to the year, sort of absolutely is where he needs to be, and then the artistry comes later when he just starts to thrill us. It's you know what, I love cycling. It's got so many phases, and when it is that quiet time during the during the real winter months, which is getting shorter and shorter, actually, that period, isn't it? It used to be 4 months where everyone just
used to finish end of September, and it was like everyone would come back about March, and
you could tuck into your turkey and your stuffing and think, well, I've got plenty of time to burn this off. These days you go, no, Mum, I'll skip the stuffing.
First training camp's in December now, isn't it? And not only does it take a toll on the riders, but it certainly takes a toll on the staff. And earlier on we had to cut away to a break, but I was talking about Gary Beckett, who sent us some great information, because we've got the team schedule for the last couple of days, and it really does show you that there's so much more going on behind the scenes. Because it says riders dinner 8:30, staff dinner 8:30, but then the riders breakfast was this morning at 7:45, and they left at 8:45 on the bus, and they stayed an hour away.
Suitcase riders 7:45, staff suitcase on the bus, leave at 8:45. It's like
an hour's journey on the bus.
It's a military operation.
Yeah, it's an hour's journey on the bus to the start as well, and the start was at 11 o'clock, so it's a lot of time. And then it goes all the way through to the bus going back to Girona, the truck going back to Girona, who's going to take it, who's taking the riders to the airport, in what car. So there's so much information there that
it's not like jump on coach, go to stadium, get back on coach, go home.
No, it's not just get on your bike, ride, race, go to hotel. People often think that the riders stay in the town where they finish each night and then start in the town the same day, the same place the next day. Often there's very long transfers, especially in a lot of these, with all due respect, slightly smaller races. The transfers can be massive.
Into town we come then, and no idea. What I do know is that's looks
that's
like
Gary Beckett.
It is, bless him. .53 kilometres remaining today, and so we're on the circuit. So you're going to get a look-see. Just behind you is the downhill ramp that they'll be on next time by. So they've kind of just cut into the circuit, if you like. We're now on it proper. So the first crossing of the finish line has been dealt with, and so we're out and we're climbing. There is absolutely no rest from this moment onwards, and 3 minutes gap. I don't know, it's not going to feel like enough, I'll be bound, with the chasers and what they've got to deal with today.
No, you can see the group here coming in on this very wide boulevard running into town, and the break are already on the finishing circuit. So just to address one question that someone said, hang on a minute, on such a short circuit, won't some of the riders be catching the back of the team cars and the cavalcade? Well, no, because on the second passing through, they pull half the convoy out. So they just leave one team car in per team on that finish circuit. It's only 6k round, so can't have very big gaps, because there will be some problems. But as I was saying, a lot of these riders will probably get off on the finish circuit. Their day will be done, and they'll want to get an early shower and start heading home.
I think that was the now camp, or the camp now, depending on whether you're speaking Spanish or Catalan. This is, of course, Catalunya. They do issue their press releases, by the way, in both languages, and they're so similar. I actually struggle sometimes to see the difference. It's just nuance, as far as I can gather. That's probably going to upset some of our Catalan friends, but I can't really tell the difference with the odd O added on, the odd ow instead of a ah. Anyway, just a linguistic moment. We'll move on for fear of upsetting somebody. Easy done in this game. 51 kilometres to go again. Yeah, exactly. The thing is, what you've got to realise at home is we're not crafting a piece for the press, so we can't sit there and just shave things and tidy it up, and we sort of often bump into things, including your sensibilities and sensitivities, and so just try and forgive us, do our best. So Sky coming to the fore. They lost Thomas, they lost Swift, they lost Boswell. Real proper firepower. You might see Kirienka having taking a little chance today.
Well, he's probably got free rein, hasn't he? Because there's not a great deal of Sky riders left. I think you'll find Froome can take care of himself. So yeah, Kirienka, the eternal strongman, who never seems to be pulling too many faces, may be up there with a chance today. He
is quite a remarkable athlete, with I think possibly the the most, how can we put this, impressive core strength. When he's climbing up a mountain, you just don't see the top of his torso moving at all, and he's counterbalancing the drive that he's putting into the pedals, and it just don't see anyone looking so solid as he does. And extremely impressive. Movistar on policing duties. They want to see the course as well. They just sail through and beyond the start-finish line, and we're on our climb, Tony.
We are on the climb, so this is where it will really start to bite for these riders. They've got a lot of kilometres of racing in their legs this week, and this climb, short, sharp through the park, and I think it just starts to drop down there, and then it takes that right turn up the additional little climb, very narrow as well. So the fireworks really will go off here when the bunch hit this.
Well, you're going to have some tempted to go for a long one. Think Philippe Gilbert, and maybe even, if he's not too tightly marked, which they'll attempt to do, Dan Martin. He hasn't got that many seconds to find, and I imagine that the likes of Contador and Quintana are going to be watching him like a hawk later on. Yeah,
very much so. Contador and Quintana. You'll have Contador trying to win the race. He's not that interested in second. He wants to win it. You'll also have Quintana there, very heavily guarded by his team. Dan Martin does need to lose Richie Porte somewhat, but of all the riders in here, I would have said at the moment, looking on current form, he's probably the most explosive on the climb out of those in the GC fight.
Well, Dan's had some great results already so far this season, and it's not beyond the imagination to find that he could go for this. Just looking at Rural at the moment, that's Louis Mas. They've had a really good race, courtesy of the Brit Hugh Carthy, British youngster, only 22 years of age, leading the Young Riders competition. And this is basically to go over the climb and badge yourself up. Spanish team doing it in Spain, and doing it in Catalunya. Why not? Sails over the King of the Mountains, takes the first of the categorised climbs. Don't think anyone is going to get anywhere near our friend who is leading this competition, De Gent. He's in the leader's jersey by such a handsome margin coming into this, isn't he?
Yeah, he's got it mathematically tied up. But looking here at the Rural rider, Louis Mas, we were talking about this yesterday. He's got a very low position on the front of his bike. His stem's slammed right down onto the head tube. He's not a massively tall rider, but the bars on his bike seem really, really low, which is kind of against trend at the moment. Riders tend to be sitting up that little bit more so they can extend their hip flexors and get the power out, but he looks very low indeed.
There we are. And still, CC,
come down.
They were doing a lot of chasing, weren't they? And they've shed personnel big time. And I can't quite see who it is because the camera's not got its steady cam on. In fact, it's got its disco cam on. Can't see a thing, but settles down finally. Just behind is Movistar. It's not Rebellin, is it? No, it doesn't look like him. Just behind, though, Katusha also involved. And what about Joaquim Rodriguez to pull something out of the bag today? It would have been his kind of terrain, this, on occasion, especially, of course, being in his home nation. And despite the fact he's been sick, it's certainly possible he could make an impression today.
Well, he's my tip for the day. This is tailor-made for him, really, and he's been there or thereabouts in many of the classics over the past couple of years. Never really got there in a Grand Tour, has he? He's never stood on the top step, but he's my tip for today, certainly.
Just looking at Retzer at the back, 49 k's to go, and this, look how squeezed this is, Tony.
Yeah, it is very, very small indeed, isn't it? It's a very narrow road, so just trying to find out the time gap to the group at the front at the moment. It was 3 minutes. I certainly don't think it's 3 minutes anymore, and this is where this race could be won or lost.
It is. Look at it backing up. It's these guys are almost in a slow bicycle race. That's the crest. That's going to be an important part of the race late on, isn't it?
Well, it's the official crest of the King of the Mountains, but it's not quite the top. It does go on for a little bit more, as we can see here on the left-hand side of the road. There's not really a big descent. It does kick up again, so 49k to go, and the rider from Rural still pushing on here. This is a good effort. He's got a big gap.
Certainly has. Not quite sure what those pylons are. It looks like they thought about a bridge and then thought better of it. Nobody managing to get over to this guy, however, and Louis Mas is just taking a feed. Well, it might be a cheeky one, why not? But it's a long, long way to go, 49 kilometres, and I think that's a hit into nothing.
Yeah, but he's achieved one thing. He's certainly on TV and getting the airtime for his team. You can see the bunch here just coming off of that little climb and onto the main road.
That looks like a driving range. I'm probably wrong. So they take a turn. At this point, I am wrong.
Well, it looks like, you're certainly right. It does look like one. It's not one, but it looks like one.
Yeah, well, there we are. Yeah, it's glazed, so it's definitely not that. We'll take a break and speculate more on the buildings in a moment. Welcome back. Just passing by the Olympic Stadium. Juan Antonio Samaranch described it as the most beautiful Olympic Games back in 1992. I just started at Eurosport then. Gosh, that was a long time ago. How old were you in 92? Not very old.
15.
I remember you throwing things at the telly. 46 Ks to go. So they sail by. Yeah, it looks like those pylons should really have had something linking them. It was probably banners at one time, but there you go. It really was a spectacular Games. I'm hoping that we're going to get up into the hillside and have a look at the Olympic diving pool. It was in a sorry state. Derelict in fact, only about 2-3 years ago, and I believe they've renovated it high up in the hills, which gives you the most spectacular view of this beautiful city.
So you're just looking at the bunch here, and this is the run into the finish. This is about 1.5k to go here, so this gives you an idea of what the finish will be like later on, just gradually downhill from that viewpoint where the Olympic Stadium is. And you can see that CCC still on the front doing the work here. One rider left. It was the whole team on the front earlier, wasn't it, Carlton? And now we're just down to one. And the lone rider up the road on his own still has a healthy gap. He crossed the finish line 2 minutes ago, and the bunch aren't quite there yet, are they?
Yeah, he's got, of course, the remnants of that 12-man breakaway that are still in no man's land between these guys. And himself, the aforementioned Louis Mas of Caja Rural. And this is that little ski jump or ski ramp that we've been talking about. There's plenty of this, actually, as part of the character of the course. They head round some of the parks and indeed the municipal golf course. I'm very, very much happy to see that Katusha are extraordinarily animated today. They mean business, don't they? There they are.
See how fast this, sorry to interrupt you, Carl, but see how fast this is on the run into the finish.
I remember it from last year, that little shimmy, that little right, left, right. And here they come, that last little scoop down, high speed, and it will thin down. There's not a great deal of space to play with, though, is there, for the moment?
No, and you can see top right of your picture there, that clock, it says 2:59 to the front of the bunch for the leader. So let's call it 3 minutes. That's a healthy gap. It's still going to come back, it's still going to come down very quickly, but 3 minutes at this stage means he's going to be out there quite some time yet.
Katusha working very well at the front. Zakarin's putting in a big turn, so is Tinkoff. Ryan Tarame, it's all for Joaquin Rodriguez, we believe, but Zakarin or Tarame, good options as well on a day such as this. As you can see, there's virtually no room to settle, is there, on this day? Up or down,
isn't it? Just you drop down to the finish and straight away you start climbing again.
It's a lovely circuit as we go through the Tauro Burro, which is a spectacular tapas emporium, and I'm just waiting to see who we've got. We've got somebody coming up who we spoke to a little bit earlier on, not quite sure who, but
I think it might be Romain Bardet.
That'd be nice. He's also a good call for today. It's Barguil, of course, not Bardet. So what about Warren Barguil? He was one of those who was struck by that vehicle we mentioned earlier in this race. Not during the race, of course, but it decimated the team's practice approach to the season. And of course, Barguil was badly hurt. And indeed, so was Degenkolb and a number of others. In fact, it could have been really very, very nasty indeed. So Warren Barguil, how's he feeling? Big question on a day that would have suited him in the past.
Ah, c'est bien passé, je suis monté en pression tout le long de la semaine. Hier, il n'a pas manqué beaucoup pour que je sois dans l'échappée.
Well, it's been a good week.
Ouais, je pense que
Yesterday, I was close to being up towards the front.
Encore aujourd'hui où j'espère faire quelque chose. Je pense que j'ai vraiment des bonnes
I did a great week. I feel I'm approaching my best form.
C'est bien pour la
I've got good legs.
On s'était dit déjà mercredi après l'étape, la première étape de montagne.
And let's hope it's the same for the rest of the
C'est
season.
confirmé, c'est-à-dire que vous revenez sur les bons rails.
Ouais, je reviens sur des bons rails.
Mountain stage,
les bonnes sensations parce que
it was tough out there. Well, he said I've had some good sensations.
Pas loin de certains records, donc ça prouve que
I'm in a good condition.
Surtout les 2 dernières étapes qu'on a eues.
And I'm close to being where I need to be. To be honest, it's just a great pleasure to be out here and going quickly and feeling in good shape.
Aujourd'hui, vous attendez quoi?
I'm in control and going quickly. What do you expect today? Well, it's not too long. It's a shortish one. It's slightly bizarre to have a circuit such as this, but sorry, I've got a translation coming straight across me, so I can't translate myself, and unfortunately the translation isn't that accurate. So you'll have to forgive me for that one. If I just heard Barguil himself, I'd have been able to do it for you. But there you go. Basically, he's in decent nick.
Yeah, which is good to see, isn't it?
It was double French as opposed to double Dutch, but anyway,
yeah, which is it's a translation of a translation, isn't it? Which is quite difficult. We'll just stick to commentating on what we've got on the screen at the moment.
What I can tell you though is that Warren Barguil is in a good place. He's gone all smiley, and thank heaven for that, because it was a very, very nasty incident where an elderly lady, 72 years of age, was on the wrong side of the road, British, on holiday in Spain, got up in the morning, decided to drive to the shops like she always does back home, and unfortunately careered straight into the Giant Alpecin team busy training. Here we go then, that's that little crest and the sub-crest on part of the first initial climb. And here we are, he's back in Louis Mas after his little skyrocket, and as with all skyrockets, he's back down to earth and within the breakaway, which is being led at the moment by Arnaud Cortet of Francis de Jeux. They'll be teeing up Manzin, who finished strongly yesterday, or indeed Retzer, who can climb a bit, so it might well be him today. But there's so many might well be's about this particular day, and frankly it depends on how much the GC boys are worried and how much effort they want to put into trying to take the jersey off Quintana.
Well, I certainly think that will happen. Definitely Contador will attack Quintana and Dan Martin will attack everybody above him. Quintana's going to sit there pretty, be looked after very well by his team, who at the moment still haven't stuck their noses out into the wind. CCC are doing a job for them in controlling this front group up to 3 minutes at the moment, and you can see the riders coming through the feed zone there. And as you can see, this circuit really is up or down. There's no respite, and even on the down sections they will be pushing on and trying to make progress. So this one's it's in a bit of a holding pattern at the moment, but it is going to kick off very soon.
Well, it is already. This is Moritz from the break wanting a look. Moritz decides to sail off on this wide highway section. He'll then take a couple of turns before he's back at the start-finish line. About 3 kilometres he's got to go before he actually gets to that point. And they're spirited attacks, these, out of what is a big group, because frankly, if you're feeling fresh at a moment such as this, on a day like this, there's nothing mysterious about the task at hand, because you're seeing it again and again, and once you've read it twice, which we've done already, then some are going to be tempted to have a crack, and that's what we're seeing now.
Yeah, very much so. And although these riders and teams will go and recce the finish of a lot of the bigger races and train on the courses and check out the finishes, you know, it's very difficult to do that on all the races. And Tour of Catalunya, although it's a big race in its own right, it's not one of those that probably warrants them going to check out the finishes. So it's always nice on a circuit that you get to see the finish multiple times. You can make sure you know where your kick point is, where you're going to attack, or you know where the last corner is, where the pinch point, as they say, is. So yeah, there's a lot of benefits to being able to see the finish on multiple occasions.
Nicholas Arndt, who finished second yesterday, quite aggrieved to have been beaten by Kimmelai, but his team had done a lot of work. He's starting to engage the chase down, but Look at that for a pedalling style. In fact, it's Wanty's Dron that's doing most of the pushing right now, along with Zander Arme. Well, he enjoyed it there, but there's clearly a lot of power behind as well to neutralise any such cheekiness out of the breakaway. You see some traffic calming devices as well, which were causing some worry amongst the peloton. I think they're going to be strung out just a little bit. We may well start to see some riders just deciding to give up the ghost today. I don't think we're going to see anyone lapped on this circuit. They seem very much in control at the moment.
No, they seem in control, and 3 minutes was the gap last time over the finish line. We'll be able to see very soon what that gap is this time. So Matej Moric from Lamprey away at the moment, just got that lead. We saw him come over the finish line sitting on his top tube in that unique descending style that quite a few of the riders have adopted these days, but the bunch still being led by CCC.
So not unique then. It was Sagan, I think, that first started that shenanigans. Yeah, he still seems adept to do it. And I guess if you want to keep up, you've got to do it as well.
Well, it is actually very fast. It's not very controlled or comfortable, but it is very fast. So on a circuit like this, where you're only tucked in it for a short period of time, and you know the roads, they're very wide, you're not going to be encountering any corners unexpectedly that you don't know are coming up, then it's a great position to adopt. But we can see here, Movistar have got the strength in numbers at the front of this race at the moment, looking after Quintana. They've got 4 riders wrapped around him, with CCC still on the front with that one rider.
How wide can they spread across the road? This has got to be 12 wide coming in here, so everyone wants a decent look at it. It's amazing, isn't it? Those who are bossing this race at the moment, Quintana and Contador, they've had, by their own standards, really quite a quiet race, really. It's about assembling the average, and that's what they've done. I'm not describing them themselves as average at all. They are the superstars. And what names we've brought to this race, Tony, the likes of Chris Froome, Contador, Richie Porte, Quintana, Aru's been very anonymous, hasn't he? And Rodriguez, who unfortunately for him got it wrong earlier in this race, and so he's no threat to the overall boys. But that may well be an added bonus to him. Rodriguez a minute and 22 down, so he might be allowed a little bit of leeway if he does go for a cheeky one late on.
He may be. This climb, I don't think this climb is going to split the race up or serve the out and out climbers as much as we thought it was going to, and there's a big bunch still left in here at the moment. So 38k to go, just probably 50 minutes of racing left, and they're flying down into this finish again. And that group is still a good 2.5, 3 minutes away. And we've still got a big bunch in here with a lot of riders reckoning they can get something out of today's stage. So the gap's actually gone out.
It's wide enough, but they're still getting pinched because so many want a decent view of it, as you can see. Just looking for Contador. He's just keeping his nose clean at the moment, and they're just sailing through, as you can see him bouncing, has a check over his shoulder. He's got a solid wingman just behind him. Yuri Trofimov, the Russian champion there, just bedding in, and it's Quintana that's staying close at hand. Dan Martin is also very much in the frame here. Likewise, Rigoberto Urán, who a lot of people are calling as a potential for today, because he can time trial Urán, as I'm sure you know. He can also sprint as well. I think he's got a proper chance today, Rigoberto.
I'm not convinced about that. For me, he's
good. I'm glad you said that, because if he
great
wins, that's going to be a coffee and a biscuit. Thanks for the biscuit earlier, by the way.
You're welcome. He's a great rider for me, and a lovely guy, but he just doesn't seem to be able to cap races off and win them. He doesn't seem to have that killer instinct or
Today's
that killer punch. So,
well, he's in about 8th in line at the moment in the lime green. Urán, so he fancies it. At least you want to keep up with the big boys, and at the moment they're flexing their muscles, aren't they? There's Contador just dancing on the pedals, as you can see, and he wants to know where of course Quintana is. Not that far behind, wearing the points jersey, by the way, is Dan Martin, so it's an unfamiliar white jersey behind the unfamiliar white jersey. They're not very distinctive. There's the leader's jersey. Next up comes Dan Martin.
Don't forget Hugh Carty is in the unfamiliar young riders
they all
white
look
jersey
white
as well.
for goodness sake. It's shocking, but anyway, they looked great because they were hoops.
This is doing some damage.
And basically they've been blanked by commercial advertising, so it just looks more or less the same. It is interesting. They're putting in some real hurt. They want to shake out the fast men and have a chance of getting bonus seconds. That's what this is all about. So on the front you've got the Russian champion here, Trofimov, then comes Contador, then it is Quintana, there's Dan Martin out of the saddle, back in it now. Just behind him is Rigoberto Urán. It's an assembly of greats here.
It is. These are some of the big players of world cycling at the moment. We're just looking for Chris Froome to see where he is. I'm sure he'll be there or thereabouts, but some damage been done further down the field and some riders shredded. We've lost the majority of the Movistar team that were massing at the front.
Wow. Well, one team that was shredded by that attack as well was Katusha. Rodriguez has not been well. We've lost a few riders such as Ben Swift to sickness. Rowan Dennis right from the very beginning as well. It's a real shame because to me this race had some great offerings, and particularly from the likes of Dennis. Froome's been very quiet by his by the standards of what we expect from Chris Froome deeper into the season, but nothing unusual. He's just come back from what has been some solid training in Africa, and he is back and ready for action. He does look extraordinarily confident, Chris Froome, very assured, and that bodes very well for a great season. And frankly, he's not sick as he was last year, finished 71st. So Froome running in 8th place, just one ahead of Hugh Carthy, the youngster, as they come up to this crest and head back round once again past the Olympic training track. There it is, not the Olympic Stadium. Dan Martin looks freshened up for this.
Dan Martin does look very fresh, and this is where the damage is going to be done. Over the top of this climb, the pressure's still being put on by Tinkoff, and
Dan's got 4 teammates around him. They're throwing a protective cordon around him as we speak.
Yeah, and we can see here that Contador just taps Trofimov on the hip and says, "Thanks for that. Done some damage," but. Still a big group, isn't it? It's probably not done the amount of damage that they wanted it to do. Contador just dropping back here, and Etixx-QuickStep hitting the front. Is that Alaphilippe?
Well, I'm just looking at Cofidis at the moment, actually, and Danny Navarro's in the house. So plenty of teams with plenty of options. Do you want to amend your call today?
Nope. I'm all good, thank you.
All right. So, to my mind, Dan Martin is certainly motivated. He was for the first intermediate sprint. He got it partially right, found a second, and is now equal with Richie Porte in 3rd place overall.
Yeah, and then the break went, and he didn't have an opportunity to sprint in the second intermediate sprint. So there are points on the line for the finish, but looking at this finish, I think he's going to have to do a lot of damage on that climb to then hang on this 3k descent.
Grumpy as they come, James 5 Allen. I don't know whether that's James Allen from Radio 5 as it was, but anyway, thanks James. He said, "I've hardly seen Urán do anything these last couple of years. Has he lost his ability or his desire?" Well, he has had some good runs, maybe just off your radar. In fact, he has flashes of brilliance in Grand Tours. I know the Grand Prix of Quebec isn't exactly, stratospheric, but on the Giro, I think, was it 2 years ago, I see what you mean. He has been a bit quiet by his own standings, but I think today is going to be the day for Urán. There you go, I've said it now. He is, of course, Colombian time trial champion, and you don't get that by being a slouch.
Do you think he's become an also Urán?
Oh, you've been teeing that one up, haven't you? Oh, have you written it down?
Oh dear. Yeah, never mind.
Turn 4, here comes Chris Froome, and Kirienka, of course, doing his fabulous robot job at the front.
Yeah, very much so. And I think for me, just going back to Urán, he didn't have a great time at Sky, and then he didn't have a great time at Etixx, a team that aren't really set up for overall GC ambitions. They had they were trying to tick so many boxes the last couple of years at Etixx that he just didn't have the support. So hopefully now at Cannondale he will get that support that he needs, and we can see it's interesting, isn't it? This time of year you have to readjust yourself to spot riders in their new kit and get accustomed with who's riding for who. But here we go, rider from Lampre still carrying on in that position. And,
he is. It's Matej Moric crosses the line again. He's enjoying this. So with actually the ticker's wrong. It should say 32. But anyway, so that's the fourth crossing of the line. So 5 laps to go. I'm going to try my best to keep you in touch with exactly how this one pans out. Nice to see Rompot there, Moritz Lamerting. They've been busy. He's in the orange and black just at the back and looking over his shoulder, which suggests that the pace that was put in by that push from Contador, and he asked for it from Trofimov, he really did set about just injecting something and closing down the gap, and it did a reasonable job. Good as well to see that Chris Froome wants to have a look at the approach, so they're reasonably up towards the 4. This is Movistar controlling things. What about Astana today? It's Lopez or Aru, but I don't know. It's a tall order, especially with Aru's demeanour at the moment. He's had a few punch-ups with Nibali in the press as Fabio Aru. Nibali been quite critical of Aru's deportment and demeanour within the coach. I'm not suggesting how he walks up and down the aisle, but nonetheless, he says Aru never asks him anything. Never asked him any advice, as if he's, at least come and doff your cap to the sage.
It's a difficult one, isn't it? Aru is the young pretender and sees himself as the next great hope. Nibali is there. He's the Tour de France winner, Tour of Italy winner, and sees himself as the current sort of champion, so to speak. So it's a difficult one to be humble when you're Aru, up and coming, when you respect someone, but you want what he's got, and it's a difficult one for me. Aru certainly at this race, 132 down and 12th overall. For me, just hasn't got it yet, and this course certainly isn't. The climb isn't long enough or hard enough for him to.
I thought he was going well as well, but missed Paris-Nice, of course, but was good in the Algarve. But there you go. Buggerback, head of the race, hasn't changed much, and Matej Moric is doing a lot of work. He did a lot of work yesterday to help David Kimmelai get to the front, and he's a sucker for punishment. He's clearly on good form.
Yeah, he is, and going very well here and holding off this chasing group, which is only a matter of 6 or 7 seconds now.
Hello.
And who were we talking about before the break?
Who did we say hadn't got it in him? Well, he's clearly responding to punishment. Fabio Aru has decided that he's had enough of all this talk.
Yeah, he said the 2 idiots on Eurosport said I didn't have it in my legs today, so watch this. I'll show you how hard this climb is. So,
well, we did say he was good in the Algarve, but it's about time he actually showed something, and he's doing that right now. But with 31 kilometres to go, this may well be a blaze of glory, but it's Bardet who's going to be tempted, I think, to follow him at the moment. Aru has decided to shove our words straight back down our throats. I did, however, qualify it saying he was decent in the Algarve, but he missed Paris-Nice. Been a bit quiet here, and he's suddenly got a bit loud.
Yep, he has suddenly got a bit loud and opened up a nice little gap on the group here. So no response just yet. He's at 132 in 12th place overall. So no real chance of affecting the overall GC. So just let him open his legs up at the moment and go on this second little climb. I should imagine it will come back. The front group has come back slightly to 245.
I think he's more than capable of doing this. What will be his response, or indeed those around him, when he makes it over to the breakaway group is anybody's guess. There are 12 up the road. Well, there's 11 together and one man, Matej Moric of Slovenia, who's gone for it. Well, clearly a target for Aru, and why not? Checks over his shoulder but sees nothing but a bend in the road, and he's engaging the climbs very well indeed. Well, he's clearly motivated to get something out of this race, and today's the day.
Yep, he is indeed, and just getting up to this crest of the main climb proper over the top. And we'll see in a minute what gap he's opened up on the main peloton. No, we won't, because we've gone to the camera view from the helicopter.
Katusha actually were backing Zakarin by the looks of things, to my mind. Rodriguez, well, wait and see. Grey clouds, storm clouds for some. And this man, is he a bolt of lightning? We'll see. And whether it hits its mark, because Moritz, for the time being at least, is the head of the race, and he's done a very good job of this. It's the gap is measured to 2:45, and so it's obviously less than that for Aru to bridge to. At the back, those who've had their turn during this race are just bringing it home. Bonnier from Wanty, who've had a very good race actually as a team, one of the pro-continental teams. This man out front for the time being. Bardet actually thought about going with Aru and decided not to. I think he's probably ruining that decision right now.
Yep, and we can see here Aru has got the gap down to 2:30 to the front of the race, so it's not coming down massively quickly, but Bardet did have a look about it when Aru went, but Aru on his own at the moment probably hoped for a little bit more company than he's got, I would have said.
Well, he could have done with the Bardet alongside him, and I think Bardet possibly, out of the pair of them, maybe just spinning up a bit quicker by the time we get to the end. He's a demon descender, Bardet. You remember the Dauphiné last season, season before I should say, absolutely sparkling. We'll have the Dauphiné, of course, for you. I'll be enjoying your company hopefully on that one. Of course, in the intervening time we've got plenty, including the Giro d'Italia, I remind you. California, Yorkshire, 3 days of Japan, Basque Country as well to slot in, all the classics.
Turkey, Tour of Turkey.
Croatia. Very much looking forward to Croatia, to be honest. Yes.
Look at this descent, look how steep this descent is.
Well, the motorcycle here, no wonder they've padded the... Oh, my goodness. Aru is absolutely on a mission. 28 k's out. He's, the leader is only 2 kilometres from the line. Then, of course, there's the 11 breakaway riders. Then there's Aru, and then there's everybody else. Now, they're just on this descent right now, but he's got, what, 20-odd seconds on these guys? Maybe not quite
15,
that.
yeah.
But, yeah, they're picking it up, and the chase now is definitely on. It's I imagine that those in front of him, which include Rodriguez, Oran, Hugh Carthy and Kaya Roral, not really his kind of day, but Chris Froome's been lively. Katusha's Zakarin is the best place of the Katusha men, and I think he'd like a top 5, and he's only, what, 7 seconds away from that. Back to Moritz with his unusual style. If he hits a sleeping policeman...
he doesn't need a saddle on his bike, does he? Just lop that off and save some weight. He's sat on the top tube all day.
It's not a kind thing to the gentleman area, especially if you hit any pothole along the way. Oh, and Aru, is he on the radio? Is he beaming back? Is it beam me up Scotty time?
Well, yeah, I think he's thought better of that. He wanted some company, and there was none coming up. So are these two just off the front, or are they bringing the whole bunch across to him?
It's Vavike who's come up to be an anchor, basically, to protect Armé, his teammate, who's up the road. And likewise, this is Warren Barguil, the aforementioned, who we spoke to at the top of the day. He's got Nicholas Arndt up top. So these guys are marking him. They don't want him to go anywhere. So mentally, if you have two with you, it starts to affect your drive, does it not?
Well, they have come across to him, and it looks like the three of them are going to get their heads down and try and push on with this. So,
well, maybe they're not. Maybe the guys who are up the road, Nico Arndt, is not the chosen one. It is Warren Barguil today. Likewise, Vavike today, and not Sander Armé, who's up the road. So they've got teammates to bridge to. And look at the alarm bells that are ringing right now for Katusha. These guys starting just to ease a little bit. Quintana certainly, as you can see, just calling for a little less pace, opens the road for others around him, including Team Sky here, and Chris Froome, who I'm sure would love to move further ahead than the 8th place he is at the moment. In fact, he's only 4 seconds behind Zakarin of Katusha, who's also within this group. Quintana leads this race by a 7-second margin from Alberto Contador, and by 17 seconds from Richie Porte and Dan Martin. who's drawn level on time with Richie Porte in third place after taking an intermediate sprint. There's still time for them to recover this, but with the sort of firepower that's going up the road at the moment, it may well be a very reduced group that crosses the line first.
Well, I think it will be a reduced group once the fireworks start going off, but there's different agendas at play now. We've got the GC contenders, the general classification contenders, wanting to win this race overall, needing to keep control of various different elements, and then we've got the other teams coming to the fore who want to win the actual stage. So that's why you can see different teams now getting involved. Orica Green Edge coming to the front. They did a lot of work yesterday to try and get Simon Gerrans there, and when the sprint started, he just didn't seem to have the legs. He didn't get out of the saddle, didn't sprint properly, and in the end sort of sat up and drifted over to the right hand side of the road, and they ended up with third and fourth place on the stage.
That's a lovely rider's eye view from the camera here. I appreciate these pictures coming around that final curve. There's the line, and suddenly starting once again, re-engaging with this climb that starts almost straight away. This is an uphill ramp, falls flat, and then it gets very, very focused. In fact, Max is at 8%. It looks a little bit more strenuous than that. And here come the main bunch right now, and it's Movistar still there, still looking reasonably comfortable. Chris Froome also in the house, as you can see, but there is Quintana with three of his teammates doing a safe job, not too worried about anyone who's up the road, and it's almost a challenge. Go by me and see. Let's see what you can do. But they look well within their own capabilities, Movistar, don't they?
They do. 2:30 now from front to back, and they're on the front. Aru there, that trademark style of his, very hunched over back, and we can see Movistar just controlling the front of it. They don't need to panic that much at the moment. Aru's only probably 15 or 20 seconds off the front of the bunch at the moment.
Just 25 kilometres remaining of this Volta Catalunya, and this little transition section, it used to be cobbled, this, or at least that area did, not cobbled but dry bricks, so no mortar between them, with expansion joints in, and I'm glad, to be honest, they've tarmacked over it, because it was a real rattler. To me, that's my least favourite surface, is loose bricks.
Yeah, not very good riding on loose bricks, are they? They rattle around a lot and make a lot of noise. A lot of town centre races in the UK have those sort of pseudo cobbles, and you ride along them and they go chinking along. You can certainly hear everyone racing on those. But look at the crowd here. What an absolutely massive crowd.
Isn't it wonderful?
It's brilliant, isn't it?
Well, the ubiquitous jester's hats, and then a condo that somebody designed to look like a honeycomb. It's known as the honeycomb condo in Catalan. 25 kilometres to go, and here they come, and indeed there they go. Round this park, it's been a joy actually the last couple of years to finish on this particular circuit, and it welcomes the crowds, and they've really turned out today, haven't they?
Yeah, massive crowds. We haven't seen that big a crowd, and unfortunately with some of the races in Spain, due to, you know, where they go to and from, they're quite sort of desert terrain, and across transition stages we don't get many crowds out, but this today in downtown Barcelona got fantastic crowds out.
Big miss today, Brent Buchwalter and Richie Porte for BMC, and Philippe Gilbert, no disrespect to Richie, but he wouldn't be allowed off the leash, but Buchwalter and Gilbert probably had options today, and I think they may have missed the boat.
Well, we can see here Moritz just coming back to this group again. You know, we had the rider from Cajarural go away, and he's having another attack here, but yeah, I think this would be a perfect stage for
he's got a gear problem.
Yeah, he's got a gear problem or a puncture. I think
he may have dropped his chain actually. He's just suddenly got no drive at all. But yeah, he decided to have a cheeky one and catch up with Louis Mas, and maybe catch up. That was Moritz. Louis Mas. Catch up with Moritz and go for it. But Yes, unfortunately, he's got an issue. Here is Aru, and he's doing a terrific job. And these guys are working very well together.
They are working very well together indeed, and they're down to about 2 minutes to this lead group at the moment. And they're about 30 seconds off the front of that chase group, so they're going very well indeed. And just going back to what you were saying about Philippe Gilbert, this is exactly his type of day. Maybe a little bit too far from the top of the climb to the finish for him to exploit it with his current form. He's not really hit full speed yet, but we shall see what the gap is next time over the start-finish line.
Indeed, because we're being offered up no gaps at all. There's no data in this race, which I don't know, that's a slack one, to be honest. You should have permanent gaps displayed on your screen, but we've not got any graphical help, and it's been the same throughout. Aru takes a bottle. It wasn't one he liked, and throws it straight away. That was bizarre. Was he hoping for a soft drink? I'm not quite sure. But yeah, it wasn't to his liking. Not even a toot. And as you can see, one of the lesser stars of the Barcelona football team, they're trying to control a bidon that had been thrown his way and kicking it straight back into the back. Yeah, it was messy, but it wasn't Lionel. 23 kilometres. See what I did there? 23 k's to go.
Sadly, yes.
Oh dear. We'll wait till we come across the line again. That will be at 19.4, so we're nearly there. And then we'll have some definitive gaps, courtesy of Tony's rather fetching IWC watch. There are other watches available. 23 kilometres from home. Aru Verwijk and Warren Barguil. Barguil looks great, doesn't he?
Yeah, it looks very good indeed. And this is the descent down onto the start-finish straight. It's a big drop, isn't it? A great big wide road. You know there's nothing else coming up, so you can actually hit this full noise. Great racing.
It certainly is. So they're cutting back down towards the start-finish line. That we are engaged in these 8 laps of 6.5 kilometres in total, with category 3 climb counted at the top of every single one of them. So minor climbing points up for grabs, and that's what they're skittling for, the likes of Louis Mas, in case you're wondering what that particular battle was raging. They won't take the King of the Mountains jersey off De Ghent, but they'll have a decent go. Yeah, just looking at the points tally there, none of them have got a hope, I'm afraid. 117 points in the KOM, the King of the Mountains jersey.
Well, Dron was in the break earlier, so he would have picked up a couple of points, but no way he could have caught Thomas De Ghent, and
No.
will do either with the break up the road.
So we're going to take a in fact, we're not being shown the crossing of the line by Aru, which is a bit of a shame, because we were hoping to just use our own rudimentary stopwatches. Stopwatch and a clipboard is to the fore. We're going old styley today. 22 kilometres to go. Here we are. We might we might have some fun. Yeah.
So this guy was just about caught, wasn't he?
If they've got that information, why not give it to us? Minute and 27 then. That's still healthy, but the chase, and 2:17, so about 50 seconds the peloton behind Aru, Barguil and Verwijk. So let's see if they make it.
Opened up a big lead there, haven't they? The Aru group, they've really made some inroads with only 22k to go.
Well, they've got to be committed, but they certainly look it, and look more so than this lot.
Well, Aru is not far off being in the top 10 here.
Yeah, he may even make top 5 if he manages to hold the gap.
Virtual, obviously.
Yeah, for the time being. But you know, if he does sustain it, we'll see. Okay, let's do our own definitive time gaps, courtesy of Tony Gibb Timing. Here we are. Here we are. Which line are you going to pick? Let's have that one. Yeah.
One there.
Click.
Yeah.
Right. He's now
1,
counting.
2,
No. Shut your face. The trouble is, we're not now going to be shown the break, or indeed Aru crossing the line, are we? They're going to mess with us. There you go. 20 kilometres to go, nonetheless. We're just waiting to see what the definitive time gap is from the breakaway. The peloton is 50 seconds in arrears to the Aru group. He started it off. Warren Barguil joined the fun, and Louis Verwijk from Lotto Soudal likewise. it doesn't look overly committed behind, because Quintana feels safe and comfortable, presumably, with what's going on up front. With 20 kilometres to go,
I am.
They're going to have to work.
Is it?
They're going to have to work very, very hard. Well, I am. Have got some options today, and why not? They haven't really lit this race up, but it could be today. And they've got Van Genegten and Jarlinson Pantano, who go well on this kind of terrain. He's a quick man, Pantano, as well. Usually, Jarlinson usually acts as lead out for Van Genegten, but there's some quick men still here and some hard men as well. Tony Gibb Timing is about to tell us the deficit of Aru as they cross the line.
Yeah, well, we haven't seen the
intermediate
what's
breakaway.
Left of the breakaway, so
but nonetheless,
1:30 at the moment it is to these guys. So yeah, they're going to come across the line on 1:35, 1:36, 1:37.
Right. Well, they found. Well, it was 1:50, wasn't it? So they found 13 seconds with 19 k's to go. And so, are we still rolling on your timepiece?
Still rhyming. Still rhyming.
So we'll find the gap between Aru and the guys here. And it's still Movistar. They haven't got really that much interest in closing this gap down. And you'd think that some other teams, if they had something left in the legs, would probably be doing that themselves. But it still looks reasonably pacey. But this is off that descent that brings you back to the start-finish line of our circuit. Bang.
2:15, 2:12.
Oh, in fact, very good. It actually says it digitally, but why didn't they just leave the camera there for us in the past?
So all of the time gaps are coming down. You know, from the group to Aru, from the bunch to Aru, and then from the Aru group forwards to the remainder of the break. So it's all starting to boil up nicely.
Here we go. Finally, call to action. Said somebody had to do something. It's AG2 Mondiale, and this is for Romain Bardet. He doesn't like the fact that Warren Barguil is up the roads. Barguil, Bardet, lots of other French youngsters, of course, who've really given renewed hope that amongst them will be a true great and maybe a Tour de France winner, because it's been an awful long time, hasn't it, for France?
It has indeed. And a couple of years back we had two on the podium, didn't we? And it looked like we were going to have a bit of a French revolution. It's gone away again, and the shall we say established heads of state in the Froome, Contador, Quintana, Nibali stakes are all there or thereabouts yet again. And I think Froome and Quintana certainly aren't going to go anywhere anytime soon, are they?
No. However, talking about Nibali stakes, Alberto is off at the end of the season, and Vincenzo looks a bit downcast at the moment, especially when he comes up against Froome and Quintana.
I'm not convinced Contador's going to go at the end of this year.
I think he may change his mind as well.
I think he's going to change his mind. Nibali needs to change a team. Nibali seems just stale, and you know, is being challenged by Aru now.
Here goes the robot. Kiri's on a mission, and staying with him is, of course, Quintana. He'll ride in this one, no problem whatsoever. His Movistar boys have done a lot of the pacing today, and this is just neutralising the threat posed by AG2 Mondiale. Bardet is only 31 seconds down, so his chances of being allowed to go that far ahead possibly muted just a bit, because especially if these happen to be at the head of the race, because there's a 10-second bonus at the line. At last, there you are. Peloton 1 minute and 52, so they've trimmed it in very short order, and that was the kick of AG2 Mondiale.
Yeah, and it's coming down very quickly indeed now, with just 17k to go. We've got 3 laps left this time over the finish line. So 3 climbs, or 3 of the big climbs and 3 of the smaller climbs left, but the neutral service vehicle is being pulled out, so this group coming back very quickly indeed now that the bunch have engaged their heads and legs. 17 kilometres remaining, and this is the big test of the day. It's modest if you do it once, but when you do it 8 times, that's a big call. And the break, single riders starting to get dropped out of the back of the break and come back to the chasing group as well. So now the bunch have really started reeling this in. It's going to come back very quickly indeed.
There we are, heartbreak for Boris Dron, and indeed I think it's Koen Bouwman who's just about to be taken for Lotto Soudal. Still got Roglic up there, and Chris Froome decides to go for it. Well, Chris Froome, we said he has come out some winter training and he's not shown all his armoury just yet. Well, he's doing so. I also said that he's been supremely confident, very assured, and this is an assured move from Chris Froome. Fabulous stuff. He's 46 seconds down. Now, if he wins today, it's a 10-second bonus, and then, of course, it's going to cause a great deal of worry for those who sit in front of him. Zakarin is 42 seconds down, Bardet 31, Van Garderen 27 off Quintana's time, Dan Martin 18, Porte 17, Contador 7 seconds off Quintana. But Froome, this is not just banging a gong. This is Froome saying, look, I'm here, I am fresh, I am ready, I want to engage in combat, and that's exactly what he's doing.
It is exactly what he's doing, and goes past the Nibali group. See Quintana trying to keep him under control. They've just about got him pegged at the moment, but this really is Chris Froome sticking a marker down and saying, this is what I've got, boys. He's not just doing this to stretch his legs, he's trying to win this race.
Chris Froome, it's about just imposing yourself when you can, and look at the response that he's drawn. Now Bardet is there by the looks of things, just trying to see. Quintana's also very much part of proceedings. Is Dan Martin there as well? He's wearing a very indistinct points jersey, nursing that on behalf of De Gent, and this camera with its shakes and bruises is not helping at all, I'm afraid.
Well, Quintana's certainly in this front group with Contador and Aru. Can't quite see, I don't think Dan Martin's here at the moment, but there's not a great big gap to the remainder of the bunch.
I think that's Navarro from Cofidis, yep, as well, who's here just at the back. 16 kilometres to go. Next time across the line is at the 13 marker, and that will be 2 full laps remaining of the 6.5, obviously, if you have rudimentary maths, which escapes me occasionally. Chris Froome has failed to shake him off just for the time being, but it's been a big degradation, I think, from the front of the chasing pack. There's a lot of riders have been shaken out of this.
Very much so. There will be a lot of damage done now with just 16k to go, and again the road starts to drag uphill, and you can see how the gaps start opening yet again.
Dan Martin is here, Chris Froome is here, and just rolling through goes Danny Navarro of Cofidis, and there is Rodriguez, who's on his case as well, and Rodriguez bursts away. Now he is no threat whatsoever, Rodriguez. He's down at 1 minute and 22, so he might get a little bit of leeway. Big response though coming from Chris Froome, as you can see, and also digging in and going for this one is Mohawi Kudus for Dimension Data, who also wants to be part of the proceedings. Just pulls up and alongside the Cofidis rider Danny Navarro in the red, but it's the red of Katusha at the moment that are having a look, checking over the shoulder, 15 kilometres out.
And is that Mikel Nieve from Sky just coming across here on Nicholas Roach? Can't quite make it out at the moment.
Have a look in a moment.
This could be dangerous, this group of 4.
Very dangerous indeed, and they all just nod at each other as if to say, to announce that this is a quartet and say, come on, let's go for this. Let's try and close it down. A lot of work to do, and first man to pick it up is Kudus, the Eritrean, who just digs deep, and he can do this.
He can do this indeed in that black and white kit that we've become to know so well. And this group pushing on now on this descent down onto the run into the finish. Think this is there's 2 riders, 3 riders just trying to come across in the middle. This could be dangerous.
Very dangerous indeed. Now they've got to keep up the pace, and out front, as you can see, only 53 seconds from the head of the race to the chase. Now which chase? That's the point. Not overly clear, but 14 kilometres is all we have left of this race right now.
So the chase is what was left of the original break with the Cajaral rider and the Lampre rider.
So they take a little toot on the water, and it's Lamatink that will come across the line first, just ahead of a very spirited effort here by Louis Mas from Cajaral. Next, just coming through from the original breakaway is Zander Arme, and likewise from Katusha, it's Tsatevich. Now, he is a very quick man, Tsatevich. I suspected before today that he wouldn't have had an option, but he feels that he can do this. Mind you, so do these guys. And look at the chasers that are also on the case. I think that's Dan Martin who's trying to get over as well, just behind what looks like a giant rider likewise. So we'll see how this reassembles itself and who just kicks on at a moment such as this. It's a question of rolling with the punches, and that's Switzer who picks it up, the Belarusian, for Dimension Data. All hell's breaking loose here.
No, it's not Dan Martin. Dan Martin's back in the bunch there. You can
There
see
he is, yeah.
shadowing Quintana. So it'll be an interesting one, just trying to work out exactly who else is in there. Can't yet. Contador's in there as well. Froome's in there, so
these guys have accepted their fate. This will be the battle for the overall, and they're compacto, as they say.
25 of them left, isn't there? That's all.
Exactly. However, it's about who's up the road. Rodriguez is up the road. We've seen as well that I don't think Bardet is up there, but Barguil most certainly is. So draw your conclusions. It's still going to take a mighty push from these guys if they're going to bridge over.
Yeah, it will take a mighty push indeed. I was just looking, I didn't see Richie Porte in that front group, but certainly saw Tejay van Garderen. We didn't see the whole group, obviously, but we will try and pick him out for you. This is that group that's trying to go across. It's now 6 strong, and Skyrider in there, number 33 is Nieve.
There is Rodriguez. Now, he'll be the most highly motivated, I suggest, of just about everybody in the peloton here. He's got a lot of work to do if he's going to make this stick today. Interesting as well that also making it over is Ludvigsson of Sweden.
So yeah, Kudos in there from Dimension Data, Navarro in there from Cofidis.
Yeah,
this is a very strong group.
is also here from I Am Cycling. It's a very, very strong group. And there, the previously mentioned Eritrean from Dimension Data, Mahawi Kudus. Strong group. And with a little guy, I think his heart may well be broken. Has Rodriguez left it too late to go for this today? 12 kilometres to go. Final lap will be declared at 6.5. That's when they'll hear the bell. Round the honeycomb building, as you can see, and they're still within sight of these guys, but it's a mark of how tough this climb has been, that the gap is a tough one to close out.
Well, you can see that the race is in bits now. We've probably only got 50 riders left in with the reckoning. Overall, we've got the front group, the 6 in the middle, and then this chase group, which at the moment is being driven by Movistar, trying to bring it all back together.
12 kilometres remaining. Rural with clearly with other cards to play right now, and it's about responding as well to the punches. Quintana's doing a great marking job. He's got all of his main contenders for his jersey and the title here solidly around him, keeping tabs on them. We've seen Contador trying to inject a bit of pace. We've seen Dan Martin trying to remain equal to it. Romain Bardet, his AG2 Le Mondiale team really did get animated. He's only 31 seconds down overall, so was not allowed to go. Could be a different story for the little guy here, number 21. That's Rodriguez, part of a quality push-on group that you're looking at right now. But the motorcycle staying close at hand on this climb and telling us what the gap is.
This is the steepest climb on the circuit. This is where they kick up to that right-hand turn.
And they're catching some of those who are further up the road earlier on today, and those who had a little bit of a push. That's Ben King, by the way, that's about to be caught. So there we are. The chase is only 40 seconds down. It's doable with 12k to go.
It is doable, only 40 seconds, and those riders have been out there all day, so they will be very tired indeed.
Here goes Pantano, the Colombian. So many Colombians, so much talent coming out of the Americas, courtesy of that nation, and he is trying to impose himself on this group. Draws out a response, and it comes from Ludvigsson, who just stays on his wheel. Also looking fresh within this group is Joaquin Rodriguez. That is Nieve also trying to stay within this group, and little out of the saddle maneuver there and sitting back in from Cofidis and Navarro. Well, Rodriguez, I think he's going to leave it very, very late. And it's interesting, isn't it, to see Contador go on the attack, and he's drawn out a response. And it's, of course, Quintana who goes with him. There'll be no shaking of Quintana at a day like this, but the crowd are loving it. He sits back in the saddle, which is unfamiliar for Contador. He's out of it almost as soon as he can. And sitting squarely in the saddle, coming up alongside, dragging Dan Martin into the fray as well. And giving the look down almost of disdain at that point. Just all looking at each other right now. Oran's also here, and finally another push. Kaya Roral, and that's it. It's Hugh Carty, the young man, the young rider's jersey goes for this as well. Now Hugh Carty, we remind you, is 9th overall. I don't think he's going to move from that position, but would love to finish in front of Rigoberto Oran for a solid top 10 finish by the young man who has done so much good work and is so familiar to some of you up there, up towards Cumbria and beyond, on the borders of Cumbria and Lancashire. Fantastic guy, 6'3", great prospect, and indeed future laying ahead of Hugh Carty, who rides for Kaya Roral. 10k to go only. And we're about to enter our final lap, Tony. What do you think? What do you think this one's going to pan out? It's hard to call even now, isn't it?
Well, I still think there's more fireworks to be had. This back group isn't going to let the front group go. Don't forget, there's some severe firepower up the road there. Joaquim Rodriguez is trying to get into the top 10, but also trying to win the stage. He's only at 122 down, so this could all change. 10 seconds, I think it is, on the line for the win.
It is 10 seconds on the line for the win, 10, 6 and 4, so the bonification points are up for grabs. Still reasonably intact out front. Moritz Lamertink just having some fun with us with 10 to go, just heading back towards town once again. Been very impressed with Jarlinson Pantano, and it's Rodriguez that everyone's leaning on at the moment. There goes Pantano again. In fact, he's looking a little bit less comfortable than he did earlier on. Quite often you see riders going for a lunge, don't you? Just when they're towards the end of their resources. Yeah. It's almost to try and convince themselves apart from anything else.
Yeah, very much so. But you can see here some of the riders in this chase group were in the original break, and Ben King there was one of those who's tagged on for a lap but has now been spat out the back. So his legs have gone with only 9k to go. That's his day done. He will ride around to the finish. But this group of, what is it now, 7, 8 riders pushing on, trying to catch the remnants of that front breakaway.
Well, it's Nicholas Arndt, actually, for Team Giant, who's in this break. And he finished second behind Kim Alai yesterday. And that was a fantastic effort by him. There we are. That's tagged out of the original group. Louis Mass going backwards, who appeared to have some gearing issues a little bit earlier on. So he's been caught by the chasers. So they're starting to pick up the remnants of that breakaway, which has done much of the pacing today.
Yep, so Froome just squeezing off the front of the bunch again there with Bardet, I think it was. 57 seconds now covers the whole of the race.
36 seconds to the intermediate group, which includes Rodriguez. We'll call it the Rodriguez group, without any disrespect to those around him in this little bunch at the moment. How many are there? 2, 4, 6, 8 of them, including, of course, our friend Louis Mass, who dropped back. So a little bit of respite as they come down on the roller coaster to take it on again.
This could all come back together still, Carlton, with only a minute left. I know we've only got 8k to go and a lot of that's downhill, but this could all come back together. There's a lot of tired legs out there.
There are indeed. So Arndt is indeed with Ludvigsen, Arndt from the original breakaway. Ludvigsen, who bridged over. Arndt will be pleased he's got a teammate. It takes a little bit of the pressure off. And still a lot of checking going on. And it's nice to see Chris Froome looking lively on this final day of this race.
Yeah, he certainly doesn't want to let this one go, trying to get involved, and I think to take the win is beyond him with a 46-second gap, so he would need 36 seconds plus the win, so that's a big ask with only 6k to go. Here's your two leaders taking the bell.
Tsatevich crosses the line, as you can see, and he's in very good company here with Roglic, it is, of Slovenia. Roglic and Tsatevich cross the line first. We'll get the next split coming for you right now. It's the remainder of the group, plus some of the chasers who've managed to get back to them. It's interesting to see Rodriguez is here, and that is Mohamed Kudus, who's also making it in to amongst those who were part of the original breakaway. They hear the bell as well. Remained it from last year, that bell, and they've given it a jolly good polish, and it's going to have to be a shining performance by somebody today. But who is the question? Who's got the legs? 31 seconds the gap with 7 Ks to go. It's bridgeable, but it's going to take an awful lot of work.
Well, it is bridgeable, but we've got Rodriguez here, who is one of the most explosive climbers in the world. If anyone can do it, he can, and don't discount Niavi from Sky there in the black and blue.
Rolling on the front, it's Ludvigsen at the moment. Just coming through is Zander Arme, and here is the chase, and it's Orica Greenedge who messed it up yesterday, and we're hoping to get something, I guess, out of this race today, but it doesn't look like it's going to happen for them.
Well, it's Garen's doing the work on the front, so they're not trying to set it up for him, so it'll be an interesting one. Can they bring this back to try and get the stage win? Simon Garen's from Orica Greenedge, who didn't have the legs yesterday to bring the sprint home.
Well, it's Impey just behind him, and then just tucked in is Nairo Quintana. Dan Martin's also there, but this is about minor places for these guys. Dan Martin's got to try and attack, one presumes. Haven't seen much of Richie Porte and his number one.
He's there. He's there just to the left of Tejay.
There he is indeed. In fact, it is Tejay van Garderen that's looking after him, and just sitting in behind, that's Ilnur Zakarin, who is also 7th overall in 42 seconds down. We haven't really mentioned him too much today. 6 kilometres only remaining, so it is on the final lap. So if you're going to impose yourself on the climb, be good to go and see that group that's trying to bridge over to our 2 leaders for the time being, including Rodriguez, to see if he is actually lighting it up and going for it.
Yeah, it would be good to see that. It would be good to get an overall picture of the times as well. With just 6 kilometres to go, we're on this last drag up. Cahural setting the pace on the front of what's left of the bunch at the moment. There's only probably 25-30 riders left in this bunch at the moment.
That's not really of our concern. They're too far back, I think, to make an impact with 6 Ks to go. Maybe on a flatter terrain it would have been different. We need to get up there. Dan Martin, just with his familiar nodding style, is still there. And finally we get back there, and it is Rodriguez who has attacked, and no surprise there. Now, is he minded to go for it again? He checks over his shoulders as if to sort of gauge the strength of those around him. This is still the chase group, we remind you.
This is the chase group. There's still 2 riders up the front, and it looks like Joaquim Rodriguez, is still trying to set the pace and desperately trying to shake off Mikel Niavi, but Dimension Data are setting the pace at the moment.
It's Switzer and Kudus that have gone for it. Switzer, the Belarusian, Mohamed Kudus also there. They felt very aggrieved yesterday that they weren't allowed to take the win with Cameron Meyer. In fact, Bernie Eisel almost stepping off the bike in disgust today, I think. He got very animated, chatting to a motorcycle and saying, look, for goodness sake, will you stop adding accidentally or whatever an assist to the chase? We've got a man up the road and we don't like it. And of course it was Chris Froome that did the same thing on behalf of a teammate a day earlier. A lot of complaints about motorcycles there. 13 seconds only. We've got a grand finale. 34 back to the main bunch that you're looking at right now. That's David Formolo of Cannondale in the lime green just going through. He's pretty handy in this terrain. But then again, so many others are as well, including this man who is really churning it up. Cofidis with Danny Navarro. So, why not? Another Spaniard, of course. It'd be a popular result at the end of the day. Mouth agape, clearly in pain, but then you'd expect that after what has been a very tough race. And that looked like it was Rodriguez trying to bridge over to him. And that big push going from Formolo now, I believe, as he tries his level best to get up there. It's still not all over for these guys.
It's still not all over. We're focusing on the bunch here, but we could really do with focusing forward on the 2 riders. We haven't given them any coverage at all, and they're in for the win at the moment. So here we go. This is Cannondale lighting it up on this last little drag up. Don't forget, the last 3K of this circuit all downhill. It's going to be a very fast finish.
An extraordinarily fast finish. Only 4Ks to go. We've still got 2 riders up there, and then it's going to be somebody from the group. But who? That's the big question. Can they possibly bridge it? It's anybody's guess at the moment. Formolo trying to tempo himself further up. He's still got 4Ks before the leaders reach that finish line. He's got a little bit of a deficit, and still they go. Still they try and make some gap.
Dan Martin
It
attacks.
is, with Quintana just tagging it on at the moment. Not going to cede anything to Dan Martin. He's only 17 seconds down on Quintana, the leader. Settling in then right now. This is Formolo, who's just managed to bridge over to one of the
Tejay.
BMC riders. It is Tejay, who's also making a very spirited push late on here. 4Ks, less than that I am sure to go, and they started the descent back home.
That's why there's been a reaction from Dan Martin, because Tejay Van Garderen is just behind him. He's only 10 seconds behind him at the moment. So Tejay Van Garderen will be very interested in pushing on here, whilst Dan Martin will be very interested in bringing him back.
Well, I think this is almost disrespectful to those who've gone up the road, I'm afraid. And Roglic, haven't seen anything of him for the time being. I suspect we'll get them as they cross the line. Can anybody catch them? This is where the animation is coming from, as you can see. And Rodriguez doesn't look like he's got it in him at the moment. Time's running out, 3Ks to go. There's still another climb before they finally get the run into town. But it's going to come in for those who are up the road in what? 2 kilometres, in about 400 metres time, and it looks like they've not got the spirit to do it.
No, and we can see the attack here going on the left-hand side of the road from Navarro, from Cofidis, but we really do need to see. There are still two riders out the front of this at least, so we really do need to see them. But look how quickly Tejay Van Garderen and Davido Formolo have got across to this move.
Quite remarkable.
Dan Martin's in danger of losing third place overall here, and I think he's dragging the bunch up to these guys.
Well, Tejay Van Garderen is looking for some seconds out there, and there is Dan Martin, and this is doing a favour to Quintana, who just needs to mark him out, to be honest, and take the glory. There is Oran, just with Bardet on his wheel in the brown and white, Oran in the lime green. And Formolo's push looks like that has been neutralised as well. Quintana looks so lively. Only 2 kilometres to go, and we still don't know the story up front because we're not being issued with those pictures, I'm afraid.
Well, we see Nievi here, is it, attacking again from that chase group. Looks like he really wants to push on. I'm only speculating here, Carlton, but have the two at the front been caught? Because I can't believe for 1 minute that we're not focusing on them.
Well, there we are. Maybe they have been. We haven't seen the pictures of it, so you'll forgive us if our judgment is clouded for the time being. Final couple of curves, and another great big Colombian flag waving and almost draping itself across these guys. Is that Pantano who's lit it up again for Colombia? Just behind, one suggests that the Colombians are happy in that regard. Maybe our two up front have indeed been caught on the climb and we missed those pictures, so apologies for that if that's the case. 2 kilometres to go, so we can assume that this is the head of the race, although it's not being declared as such just for the time being. Final kilometre then is listed for us right now, and is this going to be a great chance for Wout Poels yet again? He's had a great run here, Pauls.
Yeah, so let's assume this is the front of the race, because I can't believe for 1 minute we're not focusing on it. Wout Poels being brought back here. The Cannondale squad very keen on this one, coming down to a sprint, and it looks like after all of the fighting for the last 60 kilometres on this finish circuit, that's exactly what we're going to have.
There we are. Apologies. In fact, here they are. Well, that's an absolute disgrace, quite frankly. Tsatevich versus Roglic for the line, and a story of probably the biggest results of either of their careers, and they've had virtually no coverage at all, and thought about it, went for it again. Tsatevich takes it ahead of Roglic, and now the cameras pick up the remnants of who's going to come home behind them. Well, that's a complete lack of respect to those who are winning the stage, I'm afraid. But I know there's all kinds of other stories, but I'm not delighted about that.
Well, we can only apologise to you for that. We were convinced that because we hadn't seen them for the whole of the last lap, they had been caught and they were still away.
Well,
so
we apologise for not calling it, believing that they were still out there, and in fact they were. No timing, no pictures. This is television, friends of ours. Anyway, I think you can get our irk, but there we are. So, we have a result, but we didn't see terribly much of it, I'm afraid. So it was Tsatevich that got the beating of Roglic of Lotto-Jumbo at the end. Great effort and great result for Quintana. He is victorious and the Colombian fans are out in force. Victorious overall, of course, so he has taken his first big race essentially this season, and what a way to do it. And almost commiserations being offered up. Alberto Contador finishing 7 seconds behind Quintana. It'd be interesting to see if there was a difference between Dan Martin and Richie Porte. I think Dan may well have just got on the overall podium, but it depends on whether there was a gap further back. Here are our winners. We didn't see much of them.
No, and slightly confusing. The rider from Katusha did have to have a double check because he put his arms in the air a little bit too early here and had to push on a couple more pedal revs when he thought, oh, I might lose this here, but just about hang on for the win.
Alexey Tsatevich then takes the stage ahead of Roglic, and coming home leading the bunch. I believe it was Jarlinson Pantano that came across the line in third place. Don't celebrate too early, for goodness sake. Tsatevich did a great job. We didn't see too much of it, and that's courtesy of the pictures that were provided to us by our host broadcasters here, so not Eurosport's fault, but we do nonetheless apologise if it affected your enjoyment of today. Wow. Well, the breakaway made it, and it was a spirited chase down. I thought that Joaquim Rodriguez might well have it within him. In the end, it was not to be. And Quintana looks so strong, Tony Gibbs, so very strong at this early part of the season. But flashes of brilliance as well from Chris Froome and Alberto Contador likewise. It bodes well for a great season, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. We saw all of the big stars in world cycling for the GC contenders overall nailing their colours to the mast and showing exactly how good they are. And it's the 27th of March, so you can see how good they are, and that although we've got a long season ahead of us, they're all already preparing for the Tour de France.
Some of you not overly delighted with welcome back. We've just been listening to an interview with the winner, Alexey Tsatevich, who was in the break all day. I think he was sent up there as a satellite rider, presumably to work for Joaquim Rodriguez. Didn't quite work out, but it certainly worked out for Tsatevich's wife. She'd come along to see him for the very first time running here, and he's dedicated his victory to her, which is lovely. Roglic and Pantano making up the day's podium. About Poles finished fourth with Daryl Impey of Orica Greenedge. Rigoberto Urán with a late push to finish sixth ahead of Mollard, Romain Bardet, Gasparotto and Barbero. That's how they finished. And that's how this race has drawn to a close. There have been some issues, timings and even pictures at the very last, but thank you for bearing with us. We do our best. Sometimes juggling yogurt, it feels like. It's messy. It can be done, but it's messy. Quintana then finishes 7 seconds ahead of Contador. Martin is given third place courtesy of his countback win. Richie Porte on the same time. Van Garderen, Bardet, Zakarin, Froome, Hugh, Carthy. Yes, sound the action bell for that man. Finishing ahead of Rigoberto Urán, and plenty of big names behind the youngster Hugh Carthy, who wins the Young Riders competition.
Yeah, great result for the young man who only 2 years ago was riding in the UK for Rafa Condor Sharp under John Heraty's tutorage. So absolutely fantastic ride for him. And here's the finish for you again.
Well, in fact, it's the Alsos. There's Pantano crossing the line ahead of everybody else today, including our winner, Quintana. Well, we're going to see some highlights, it seems, while we wait for the podium. But believe me, the podium usually takes quite a long time for some strange reason. We had a breakaway, 12 riders went for it, and they kind of started boxing with us, didn't they? Louis Mas decided to have a go, but unfortunately it was gear issues that put paid to his challenge today.
Yep, something went wrong over the top of the climb, and we thought that this race was going to come back together. Around the Olympic Stadium here with 7 laps to go over the line. CCC Sprandi Polskovicki did a lot of work early on and then faded towards the end, with Movistar taking up the chase.
And chase it was, and particularly on the climb, which we had to do 8 times. Pretty focused, more wearing than overly challenging. And so it was a question of who would go for it. Fabio Ru decided that he needed to show himself today. The press have been saying how quiet he's been, so he went loud, but not for long.
No, he went loud, got away with 2 other riders trying to bridge across to the break. Break eventually falling apart and leaving 2 riders out there. But Aru was out there for a good period of time trying to get across to the front, and then we saw Froome attack.
Yeah, we did, and it was great to see Chris in this kind of mode, just testing himself at this point of the season, you can be sure, because it's been a long training run, his first real race of combat. It was 71st last year, Froome, and wasn't very well, I'm afraid. Done much better this year with a solid top 10. Contador as well decided to test out Quintana, but Quintana looked incredibly within himself, didn't he? It was just no problem whatsoever to neutralise any attacks, and it was left to you're seeing all of what we saw at the finish line, to be honest. These guys. Tsatevich in the break all day, biggest win of his career. His wife turned up and he said he was going to do it for her, and that's exactly what he did, almost celebrating too soon. Roglic of Slovenia finishing 2nd on the day, and clearly the stronger man, Tsatevich. Race on came with Jarlinson Pantano doing it for Colombia, as well as Quintana, of course, taking the overall title. 3rd home was he. Quintana, our champion. Now don't forget, we've got the Criterium International going on at the moment. Plenty of cycling here on Eurosport. Your home of cycling. We're waiting with flowers, kisses, jerseys, that kind of thing. Stage winner today. I bet you he doesn't throw the flowers because his wife's here. He'll be taking those. There we are. What an absolutely gorgeous bunch. About as far away from a fuel station bunch of flowers as you can get. Go on.
Pick the right team, wrong rider.
There we are. Thought it was going to be Rodriguez today. I think Katusha did as well. That's why this man was put in the break. I told you he's going to carry those flowers. He's got somebody to give them to.
Yeah. It's
his wife. She's come to see him, and she's got to witness 2 ladies giving him a kiss.
Yeah,
she won't mind. Good man. He looks incredibly humble, and it is a humbling thing when you get a big result like this ahead of some very, very big names, but he worked hard for it, and he more than deserved it today. Criterium International will be on your screens shortly as we sail by the Sagrada Familia. Absolutely beautiful. Gaudi's creation. Well, he met a grisly end, and this race has drawn to a close with Quintana, our champion. There's the final gaps then. Quintana takes it by a 7-second margin ahead of Alberto Contador. Daniel Martin making up the podium. Well, I think that's the combativity chorizo he's been given right now in its silver box. And why not? Out there all day. He worked hard, didn't he?
Did work hard. The 2 riders that were left at the finish had been out in the break after the first exchanges, and a lot of riding for them, and very, very good riding to hang on, given the toughness of that finish circuit with all those climbs, 8-9 times up that climb. They did a lot of work to hang on there, and for me personally, slightly disappointing we didn't see them, and they didn't get their moment in the sun, so to speak, on the last lap.
This is the big star award.
It's Gold Star Award, isn't it?
He's obviously done his homework.
Yeah.
There we are. He gets a bag as well, also with a gold star in it. This is your King of the Mountains in a few moments' time, and it's going to be De Gent. And what a great effort it was by him.
Yeah, very good riding indeed by Thomas De Gent to hold on, well, not hold on, but convincingly win that King of the Mountains title.
Well, we're just waiting for this. It's in reverse order, and I think we're going to leave and join the Criterium International. Indeed we are. So we're going to bid you a fond farewell from me, Carlton Kirby, and from Tony Gibb.